guys, here it is. This is where it started this morning. We were looking at some headline news on LEXX. You can see here that there was some positive clinical studies that came through, and the market wanted to take this thing for a ride. Now you'll see here that it's up 18% as of the close. But what I want to do is I actually want to show you how this thing panned out. You can see that there was a big spike here, and there were some issues with price action out of the gate. I typically don't like stuff like this. This is what's referred to as a topping tail, and you'll see that this happens actually quite a bit throughout the session. And what this tells me is that price action is going up, but it's closing lower in its range. It's going up, closing lower in its range. It's going up, closing lower in the range. And when I see things like that, what that tells me is that there's a bit of a demand issue up at these higher levels. Now, spoiler alert, you're going to see that this is actually the intraday high over here at 478, which also is a key level over here on the daily that it had troubles with, not only today, but historically. You'll see right through here that there is some support. We get this gap up, support, we break down, turns into resistance, fails to get above that level multiple times, fails to get up to that level, and then today was no different. And so this was something that I had to make a note of going into the session, that this was going to be a problematic area and price action wasn't getting through that level. You can see that we struggled here, we struggled here, struggled here, struggled again here. Now, the way that I was looking at this was this thing actually came off a little bit, and right down through here, it created a little bit of a floor, and I thought to myself, this is interesting. If this level can hold, there is some upside potential. If it fails, then I'm completely done. And what happened is you can see here that price action does reverse into the session, and what I was looking for was actually a VWAP squeeze play. I did get into this almost immediately into a halt, and then it's right through this area where price action started to struggle in the cash market, and I started to have issues with this trade. And the way that those issues sort of presented themselves was in through, I think it was at this level right through here. It was about 412, I want to say 413 where I got in. But it was into this halt, and then price action again, it struggled. It did move higher. It struggled again. It came off, and then I got stopped out. No big deal. I went into it again with the same sort of idea. It's a VWAP squeeze, and I didn't mind getting back into another VWAP squeeze because, again, it produced a little bit of a floor, and the lows were getting higher. It had this nice ascending triangle, and it broke. What did it do? It rallied all the way into 478. It struggled, it failed, it came off. I tightened up my stops. I got out of it again. At this particular time in the day, I'm into this thing twice, two losers, but I stuck with this one because there was upside potential based on news. The risk to reward ratio looked good. And I was aiming at a plus $5 level to get out based on my Fibonacci projection tools and where I was placing that. I got into this thing again twice, and again, it came right down through here. There was a squeeze that I took, and this thing popped, and then it rallied, it pulled back, I tightened stops, I got out. It was a relatively decent trade, but at this particular moment in the market, I was still down on the day. And there was another trade that I put on where this thing came back, it broke out again, and then this time I actually went up to high of day, and I had an exit target at high of day. I think I put it maybe a cent or two below, just in case the strength started to fade at that level, but you can see that it spiked through, and as it came back into the range, failing to close higher highs on the day, I got stopped out, but in profit. So 4 trades, 2 worked out, 2 did not, net positive on the trade. LEXX was what we were trading today. I like this trade, to be completely honest, but the big thing, and I was talking about this in chat all morning, and little technical nuances that you have to pay attention to are topping tails. When you see multiple topping tails, the market is telling you in plain English, let's call that visual English, but it's telling you straight up that it's struggling at those levels, and the level that it was struggling at was a structural level that was printed out on the daily over a longer period of time. And because it failed to get above those levels, because it failed to close above that longer structure level on the daily, you had to be super risk adverse on this particular trade. It was not having it. It was struggling at those levels. Everything we needed to see for a big trade was here. There was news. There was solid price action patterns. There was resets in the MAC. The momentum was shifting bullishly. There were areas of large volume that was printing above average levels right through here, for example. And you can see that there is this correlation between everything that's going on. VWAP squeezing. It was all there, but it kept struggling at these higher levels. And because it struggled at those higher levels multiple times, you had to become more risk adverse. Whenever you get into a structural level and it fails to break, all that stock is telling you is the market isn't there. It's just that simple. You look at the level twos, you're going to see a wall, no buyers on the other side of that. The market's not there. And if the market's not there, if participants aren't there, it can't go higher. And if it can't go higher, what is it going to do? It's going to fail. Case in point, there was a massive ascending triangle that I was looking at. Again, I got out right through here, and what happened immediately after is that candle absolutely got crushed, moved into a halt, and then sold off for the rest of the day into the close. And that's how this session worked out. This was a very difficult trade. It was choppy. It wasn't clean. It had all of the preamble and prerequisites for a potentially fantastic trade, but it just couldn't follow through. Didn't follow through. Structural levels from that daily we're holding. And so this was a 50-50 trade for me. Again, 4 trades, 2 worked out, 2 didn't. And the reason why I kept hammering away at this trade is the idea was the news is good. The market is here. This had a very, very tight float of maybe 2 to 5 million shares made available to trade, and 20 plus million shares had traded all the way through the day. In the earlier part of the session. So the idea is that tight flow, lots of demand, structural level, great news, fantastic high probability patterns, bullish nuances were printing on the charts, but for whatever reason, 479 structural level on the daily was holding tight, wasn't about to pop, wasn't about to break long, and that's where the trade actually failed, and that's where the trade ended. It all ended right up here. This was the fat lady singing right through here. It just wasn't going to do shit. As soon as it went through and then sold off, this trade was done. Having said that, I still managed to scrape out net 10 cents per share. So positive day. This one really tried my patience, and again served as a reminder about being diligent, about being disciplined, about making sure that the 4-part process that I practiced was here. The high probability patterns were here. Risk management was here. Everything was here, but the breakout wasn't. And that's a wrap.